30. 30 is a 3 cycle. So, again about creativity, self-expression, but now with wisdom and being more open to the realization that it's the inner world that's expressing itself. And if we find balance and harmony on the inner world, then we find balance and harmony on the outer world. And so the compassion for your story, compassion for the story. So the mind is always telling a story. It tells the story of our past and our interpretation or our perception of that, and it tells a story about the painful past, or a story about the painful future. And when we understand that it's simply a story, we can detach from it, we can step back from it. So an important part of managing our energy is to not be in it, so not to be drowning in victimhood, drowning in the pain, drowning in the fear, but to be able to see that that's what's happening. So when I spoke about the perfect present, and the perfect present is the ability to see or to feel, to understand that what's moving through my system right now is the energy of fear, is the energy of pain, is the energy of sorrow, it's the energy of joy, it's the energy of happiness, it's the energy of confusion, it's the energy of uncertainty, it's the energy of certainty. There's so many vibrations, and when we are able to see it as a vibration and detach from it. So in this moment, understanding that it's just energy and that it's responding to the story that we've got, our belief systems, our programmings. So if we can at this stage now be able to have compassion for our story, for example, from being born to now, all the different things that have happened, all the different experiences, and good and bad, or a mix, and it might feel more weighted one way or the other, and then being able to look as if it's playing a story. So it's not you, it's happening to somebody else. The story of your life isn't the story of your life, it's the story, it's a story. And looking at that story and seeing what that person has experienced, seeing their story. And often when we see it as something outside ourselves, when we see it as a story, easier to have compassion, easier to show compassion and kindness and understanding of why that is the story. So as we strengthen the observer self and we strengthen the awareness of our own internal world, and that we are energetic beings vibrating, and we can look at the story that's occurring without being in it, without being part of that story, without playing the role. So difference between being a character in a movie and playing that character and embodying all that comes along with that character, so we can see on a film that character is a culmination of their past, they're a culmination of what it is they've lived, their experiences, and they're living them out, and their choices and what they're doing next is fueled by their past and what they want to change and what they want to do, and all of that. And that's happening to us and different people, the characters in that play. And so the ability sometimes to just have a look at the story of your life from a viewing perspective, viewing the story of your life, and then having compassion for the pain that you might have experienced, having compassion for what the decisions that you then went on to make, without judgment, but with understanding, because you're watching the story, and therefore easier to see why you might have done this, easier to see why that happened, and then also easier to see what would be the next step? You know, as the observer, it's very easy when, when things are happening in people's lives, it's very easy from a detached perspective to think, why don't you just do this? Just do that. Simple. It seems very simple as an observer of somebody else, or, situations happening to other people without attachment, when there's no attachment and we can simply observe because it means nothing to us, it makes no difference. We can just observe it and see, well, it's obvious, you would just do this. To that person that's feeling it, that's got those triggers, that has the past, that has that experience, not so easy, not so easy. And so on day 30, just maybe having an awareness to observe with compassion your story, being aware of your story and what has brought you to here. But then as an observer, what would you do next? It's just reminding me of English class where we'd start, you had to finish the story. So you'd start with a little introduction and then you finished the story, and 30 people, interestingly day 30, 30 people in the class would all make up something different from that little bit. They would write the ending of that story, but that story could go in numerous directions. I mean, it could go anywhere from that first bit of an introduction. And so that's our lives, when we can look at our lives as a story so far. This is my story so far. How do I want to write the ending? Well, as I observe, if I was writing for this person, this is their story. This is what's happened, so therefore we can see the strengths, the skills, the tools, where the weaknesses might be. We can see a fuller picture. And then what next? How might we heal that? How might we move forward from that? What might be the next step? It might be from that compassionate story that gentleness is required. It might be from that compassionate story that, things need to fall into place or action needs to be taken. So day 30, try it, the ability to look at your story, the story that you've told you, or whatever it might be, but from as if you're watching somebody else, from the perspective of, this is somebody else's story. And if this was somebody else's story, how might I guide them? How might I interact? How might I feel? Would I be able to show compassion and love and kindness and understanding for, their choices, their decisions? Would it give me a fuller picture of why they are, where they are, how they are, and, where they're moving to? Okay, so just an observation exercise, really. The meditation and reflection practice, huge in the ability to navigate life situations and understand where we're at, to be present and see, what are we doing and why are we doing it? So I often ask myself, what am I doing and why am I doing it?